Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES horizon, watching the stars drift by through the massive viewing window. They'd been traveling for 3 months now, deep into space where no human had ever gone before. The ship carried 200 brave volunteers who had left Earth. Behind to explore the unknown parts of the galaxy, Jake took a sip of his coffee and checked the navigation display. They were still 2 days away from the Kepler 442 system, where their sensors had detected something interesting. Maybe it was just another dead planet, or maybe they would find something that would change everything for humanity. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Lieutenant Kelly Adams sat at her navigation station, plotting their course through space. Chief Engineer Ryan Phillips was down in the engine room, making sure everything ran smoothly. Dr. Lisa Carter was in her lab, studying samples they had collected from their last stop. Suddenly, the communication system started beeping. Jake frowned and walked over to the communications officer. "What do you have, Martinez?" Jake asked. Communications officer Carlos Martinez looked confused as he stared at his screen. "Sir, I'm picking up some kind of signal. It's very weak, but it's definitely artificial. Someone or something is trying to send a message." Jake felt his heart beat faster. "Can you clean it up? Make it clearer?" "I'm trying, sir, but this is unlike anything I've ever heard before. The patterns are completely different from human communication." Jake pressed the ship-wide communication button. Dr. Carter to the bridge. "Immediately, we may have found something." Within minutes, Dr. Lisa Carter rushed onto the bridge. She was a small woman with short brown hair and bright green eyes that always seemed excited about new discoveries. She had spent her whole life studying the possibility of alien life, and now she might finally get the chance to prove they existed. "What do we have?" Lisa asked. Hurrying to the communication station, Carlos played the signal for her. Strange sounds filled the bridge, musical tones that rose and fell in patterns that seemed almost like a song. But underneath the beauty, there was something urgent, something desperate. "This is incredible," Lisa whispered. "These patterns are far too complex to be natural. This is definitely intelligent communication." Jake nodded. "Can you figure out what they're trying to say?" Lisa was already connecting her portable computer to the ship's systems. "I need time to analyze the patterns. But Commander, this signal is coming from the Kepler 442 system. That's exactly where we were heading. How long to decode it?" Jake asked. "Give me a few hours. Maybe less if I'm lucky." Jake turned to Kelly at the navigation station. "How fast? Can we get to that system?" Kelly checked her calculations. "At maximum speed, we could be there in 18 hours instead of 2 days. But that would use a lot of fuel." "Do it," Jake ordered. "Something tells me this is important." The next few hours passed slowly. Lisa worked without stopping, trying to make sense of the alien message. Jake paced the bridge, unable to sit still. He had a feeling that whatever they found would change everything. Ryan Phillips came up from the engine room, wiping grease from his hands. "Commander, the engines are running at full power. We'll reach the system in 17 hours now." "Good work, Ryan. How are our systems holding up?" "Everything's running smooth. Though I have to say, sir, the crew is getting excited. Word has spread that we might have found aliens." Jake smiled. "I can't blame them. This is what we came out here for." Finally, Lisa looked up from her computer. Her face was pale, and her hands were shaking slightly. "Commander, I've got it. I've decoded the message." Everyone on the bridge gathered around Lisa's station. She took a deep breath before speaking. "The signal is a distress call. The beings sending it call themselves the Valathi. Their world is under attack by something called the Krathan Empire. They're asking for help from anyone who can hear their message." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "How bad is it?" Lisa's voice was quiet. "They say they have maybe 3 days before their entire species is wiped out. The attackers are destroying their cities and killing everyone they find. The Valathi have never fought a war before. They don't know how to defend themselves." The bridge fell silent. Everyone stared at the display showing the alien message patterns. "There's more," Lisa continued. "They've been sending this message across the entire galaxy, hoping someone would help them. But they don't expect anyone to come. Their message, they say they know most species won't risk themselves for strangers." Jake walked to the viewing window and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an entire alien race was about to die, and they were asking for help. Commander Kelly said softly, "Earth's first contact protocols say we shouldn't get involved in alien conflicts. We're supposed to observe and report back." Jake turned around to face his crew. He saw the same conflict in their eyes that he felt in his heart. They had traveled billions of miles from Earth to explore the unknown. Now they had found aliens, but those aliens were in terrible danger. Sir Carlos spoke up. "There's something else the Velothi mention Earth in their databases. Call it a Class 12 death world. According to their information, planets like Earth are so dangerous that intelligent life shouldn't be able to survive there." Lisa nodded. They never expected anyone from a death world to receive their message, let alone respond to it. They think we're probably already dead or too primitive to help. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. These were good people who had volunteered to leave everything behind and explore space. They had families back on Earth, lives they could return to, but right now, they were the only hope for an entire alien species. "Ryan, how are our weapons systems?" Jake asked. Ryan's eyes widened. "Sir, are you thinking what I think you're thinking?" "I'm thinking that we didn't come all this way just to watch genocide happen. How are our weapons?" "Our systems are working perfectly, sir. We're not a warship, but we're not defenseless either." Jake walked back to his command chair and sat down. He pressed the ship-wide communication button. "Attention all crew. This is Commander Morrison. By now you've all heard that we've received an alien distress call. I want everyone to understand what we're facing. It's an alien species called the Velothi is about to be completely destroyed by attackers called the Krathan Empire. They're asking for help." Paused, knowing that his next words would change everything for his crew. "Earth command protocols say we should not get involved. We should observe, record, and report back. But I didn't sign up to watch an entire species die when we might be able to help. Neither did any of you." Jake took a deep breath. "Not ordering anyone to fight. This decision has to be made by each person on this ship. If we do this, we might not make it home. We might be starting a war that humanity isn't ready for. But if we don't try, the Velothi will be dead in 3 days." Communication system crackled as voices came from all over the ship. Every department, every crew member was saying the same thing. They wanted to help. Lisa smiled through her tears. "Commander, I'm getting another transmission from the Velothi. They're still sending their distress call." "Put it through the ship's speakers," Jake ordered. The haunting alien music filled the entire ship. Even though no one could understand the words, everyone could hear the sadness and hope in those strange, beautiful sounds. Jake stood up and looked out at the stars. "Kelly, set course for Velothi Prime. Maximum speed."
"Yes, sir."
"Ryan, prepare all systems for combat." "Already on it, Commander." "Lisa, keep working on their language. We're going to need to talk to them when we get there." As the UES Horizon raced through space toward an unknown battle, Jake Morrison knew that humanity was about to make its mark on the galaxy. They were no longer just explorers. They were about to become something the galaxy had never seen before. Deathworlders who fought not for conquest, but to protect the innocent. The EU's Horizon dropped out of hyperspace with a violent shudder that shook the entire ship. Commander Jake Morrison gripped his chair as the stars stopped streaking past the viewing window and became steady points of light again. What he saw in front of him made his blood run cold. The Kepler 442 system was a war zone. Massive alien ships hung in space around a beautiful blue and silver planet, firing bright red beams down at the surface. Even from this distance, Jake could see explosions blooming like deadly flowers across the planet's surface. "My God," whispered Dr. Lisa Carter from her station. "We're too late." "No," Jake said firmly. "Not yet." "Kelly, get us closer to the planet. I want to see what we're dealing with." Lieutenant Kelly Adams worked quickly at her navigation controls. "Sir, I'm reading 12 large ships in orbit. They're each about 3 times the size of our ship. And there are smaller vessels moving around the planet." Chief Engineer Ryan Phillips appeared on the bridge, his face grim. "Commander, all weapon systems are ready. But sir, We're seriously outnumbered here. Jake studied the display screen showing the enemy ships. They were dark and angular, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. They looked like they were built for one purpose: destroying things. Those must be the Krathen ships, Jake said. What about the Velothi? Can we see any of their vessels? Communications Officer Carlos Martinez shook his head sadly. Sir, I'm picking up debris fields where their ships used to be. It looks like they tried to defend their world, but their ships weren't built for fighting. On the main screen, Jake could see pieces of what had once been alien spacecraft drifting through space. But these weren't like the dark, brutal Krathen ships. The Velothi ship pieces sparkled and glowed even in death, like broken glass catching sunlight. Lisa, are you still getting signals from the planet? Jake asked. Dr. Carter worked frantically at her station. Yes, sir. The distress calls are still coming from the surface, but they're getting weaker. I think their transmitters are being destroyed. Suddenly, the ship's warning system started blaring. Red lights flashed across the bridge. Commander, Kelly shouted, 3 Krathen ships are moving toward us. They've detected our presence. Jake felt his heart pounding, but his voice stayed calm. Battle stations. All crew to emergency positions. Throughout the ship, people ran to their assigned spots. Marines grabbed their weapons and headed for the airlocks. Engineers made sure all systems were running perfectly. Medical teams prepared for wounded. On the main screen, the 3 approaching Krathen ships looked enormous and terrifying. Jake could see weapons pointing at them from every angle. Incoming transmission from the Krathen ships, Carlos reported. Put it through, Jake ordered. A harsh, mechanical voice filled the bridge. The alien language sounded like metal grinding against metal, but the ship's computer provided a translation. Unknown vessel, you are in Krathen territory. This system now belongs to the Krathen Empire. Surrender your ship or be destroyed. Jake stood up and walked to the center of the bridge. He looked at each of his crew members, seeing determination. In their eyes, despite the fear, Carlos, open a channel to the Krathen ships. Channel open, sir? Jake's voice was clear and strong. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Horizon. We represent humanity. We don't surrender to bullies, and we don't abandon people who need help. If you want to fight, you'll get one. The Krathen response came quickly. Humans. Our databases show your species' lives on a death planet. You should already be extinct. No matter, you will join the crystal creatures in oblivion. The transmission ended, and the 3 Krathen ships began moving faster toward the horizon. Lisa, Jake called out, are you getting anything from the planet? Can we talk to the Velothi? Dr. Carter's hands flew over her controls. I'm trying, sir. Wait, ... I'm getting something. It's very faint, but I think I can boost the signal. Suddenly, new sounds filled the bridge. These weren't like the harsh Krathen voices. The Velothi communication was like music, pure, beautiful tones that seemed to paint colors in the air. I'm getting a translation, Lisa said excitedly. They're asking who we are. I can't believe someone actually came to help them. Them were humans from Earth, Jake ordered. Tell them we received their distress call, and we're here to help. Lisa worked quickly, sending their response in the musical language of the Velothi. After a few moments, a reply came back. Commander, Lisa said, her voice filled with wonder. They're trying to understand how we survived on what they call a Class 12 death world. They say, according to their science, nothing should be able to live on a planet as dangerous as Earth. Jake smiled grimly. Tell them they're about to find out what living on a dangerous planet teaches you. The first Krathen ship opened fire. Bright red energy beams shot toward the horizon, but Kelly was ready. She spun the ship to the side, using moves she had learned from combat simulations back on Earth. Turn fire. Jake commanded. The Horizon's weapons responded with blue energy beams that struck the Krathen ship's hull. The alien vessel shook from the impact, clearly surprised by the human ship's speed and accuracy. Sir Ryan called out from his engineering station. Their weapons are powerful, but their ships are slow. They're not used to fighting enemies who can move like we do. Jake nodded. That's because most species probably give up when they see how big those ships are. But we're not most species. More Velothi signals came through the communication system. Lisa listened carefully, then turned to Jake with amazement in her eyes. "Commander, they're asking how we can fight so calmly. They say they've never seen anything like human combat tactics. The way we move, the way we think during battle, it's completely different from anything in their databases." Another Krathen ship fired at them, but the Horizon twisted away from the attack like a dancer avoiding a clumsy partner. The human ship's return fire hit the alien vessel right in its weapon ports, causing explosions along its hull. "Tell the Velothi that Earth taught us to never give up," Jake said. "Every day on our planet was a fight to survive. Ice ages, volcanoes, earthquakes, storms, our world tried to kill us for millions of years. We learned to adapt or die." As Lisa translated this message, more Velothi voices joined the conversation. Even in the middle of battle, Jake could hear the wonder in their alien music. "Sir," Lisa reported, "they're saying something incredible. The Velothi can share memories with each other through their harmonic communication. One of their leaders wants to share memories with me to understand what humans are really like. Is it safe?" Jake asked, while the ship shook from another near miss. "I don't know, sir, but it might be the only way to really communicate with them." Jake made his decision quickly. "Do it, but be careful." Dr. Carter put on a special headset that would let her interface with the alien communication system. As soon as she made contact, her eyes went wide with shock. "Oh my God," she whispered. "I can see their world through their eyes." "Commander, the Velothi are beings made of living crystal. They're beautiful beyond anything I could have imagined. But they've never known violence of any kind. The concept of deliberately hurting another living being is completely foreign to them." The ship rocked again as Krathen weapons found their mark. But Jake was focused on what Lisa was learning. "They're showing me their history," Lisa continued. "For thousands of years they've lived in peace. Their cities are made of crystal that grows like plants. They communicate through music that creates rainbow lights. They've never had wars, never had weapons, never even had the idea of fighting." Jake understood now why the Velothi couldn't defend themselves. They were as different from humans as day from night. Where Earth had forged humanity in fire and struggle, the Velothi world had given them only peace and beauty. "And now I'm sharing human memories with them," Lisa said, tears streaming down her face. "They're seeing Earth through my eyes. The ice ages, the natural disasters, the way humans had to fight just to survive each day. They're beginning to understand what we are." A new Velothi transmission came through, stronger than before, Lisa translated quickly. "They're saying that they finally understand why their database is called Earth a Death World. But they also say they never imagined that a Death World could create a species that would travel across the galaxy to help strangers." Jake felt a surge of pride in his species and his crew. "Tell them that Earth made us strong, but it also taught us to protect those who can't protect themselves." The battle continued around them, but something had changed. More Velothi voices were joining the conversation, and Jake could hear something new in their musical language, hope. "Commander," Lisa said with excitement, "they're offering to help us fight. Say they may not know about weapons, but their technology might be useful in other ways." Jake smiled as the Horizon dodged another Krathen attack. "Well, then we accept their help. It's time these Krathen bullies learned what happens when Deathworlders and peaceful people work together." The battle around Velothi Prime grew more intense as more Krathen ships moved to attack the lone human vessel. Commander Jake Morrison watched the tactical display and saw that they were now facing 6 enemy ships instead of 3. The odds were getting worse by the minute. Sir Lieutenant Kelly Adams called out from her navigation station, "2 more Krathen ships are coming from the other side of the planet. They're trying to surround us." Jake nodded calmly. "Then we don't stay still. Long enough to get surrounded?" "Ryan, how are our engines holding up?" Chief Engineer Ryan Phillips checked his readings. "Running at 90% efficiency, sir. We can keep this pace for hours if needed." The Horizon twisted through space like a dancer, avoiding the bright red energy beams that the Krathen ships kept firing at them. Every time the aliens thought they had the human ship trapped, it would suddenly change direction in ways their computers couldn't predict. Commander Dr. Lisa Carter said from her communication station. The Velothi are amazed by how we move. They're saying our ship fights like a living creature instead of a machine. Jake smiled grimly. That's because we learned to fight like living creatures. Every human on this ship grew up on a world that never stopped trying to kill us. On the main screen, they could see the Krathon ships getting frustrated. The alien vessels were powerful and heavily armed, but they moved slowly and predictably. They were built to fight enemies who would face them head-on, not ones who could dance around them like the Horizon was doing. Sir, communications officer, Carlos Martinez reported, I'm picking up chatter between the Krathon ships. They're confused. They keep saying this isn't how space battles are supposed to work. The ship shook as a Krathon energy beam grazed their hull, but the damage was minor. Jake pressed the ship-wide communication button. It's all fighter pilots to your ships. Launch when ready. Within minutes, 12 small human fighter craft launched from the Horizon's docking bays. Leading them was Lieutenant Commander Steve Rogers. The best pilot on the ship? His voice came through the communication system, calm and confident. This is Eagle Leader. All fighters follow my lead. Remember your training and watch each other's backs. The human fighters spread out through space like a flock of birds. The Krathon had never seen anything like them. Their own fighter craft were large and heavily armored, designed to trade shots with equally powerful enemies. The human fighters were small, fast, and incredibly maneuverable. They darted between the Krathon ships like insects, striking at weak points and disappearing before the enemy could respond. Eagle 2 to Eagle Leader came the voice of Pilot Officer Amy Johnson. These alien ships have blind spots all over them. It's like they never expected to fight anyone who could move faster than they could turn. Steve Rogers laughed as his fighter dove under a Krathon battleship and fired at its engine ports. That's because they probably never have, Amy. Most species probably just line up and trade shots until one side dies. The Krathon ships tried to swat the human fighters like flies, but the small craft were too quick. Every time an alien gunner thought he had a target, the human pilot would pull moves that should have been impossible. Amy. Johnson's fighter spun in 3 directions at once while firing at a Krathon weapon turret. The maneuver created G-forces. That would have killed most alien pilots, but humans had evolved on a world with strong gravity and constant danger. Their bodies could handle punishment that would destroy other species. Eagle Leader Amy called out, I'm going to try something. Crazy. Define crazy, Steve replied, while his own fighter looped around a Krathon missile. Amy's fighter suddenly accelerated directly toward the largest Krathon ship. The alien gunners fired everything they had at her, but she weaved through the energy beams like she was dancing. At the last second, she fired all her weapons at the ship's bridge and pulled up so sharply that any other species would have been crushed by the force. The Krathon ship's bridge exploded, and the massive vessel began spinning out of control. Back. On the Horizon's bridge, Jake watched the battle with pride. His people were fighting like the children of Earth. They were adaptable, relentless, and absolutely refusing to give up. Lisa, he called out, what are the Velothi saying about this? Doctor. Carter listened to the musical alien voices coming through the communication system. Sir, they're terrified and amazed at the same time. They keep asking how we can fight so calmly when we're in such danger. They want to know how we learned to think so clearly during violence. Tell them that Earth taught us that panic gets you killed, Jake replied. When your planet has earthquakes, hurricanes, and predators that want to eat you, you learn to stay calm under pressure, or you don't survive long enough to have children. A new voice joined the Velothi communications. Elder Resonance Zexthiala, the leader of the crystal beings. Lisa worked quickly to translate the complex musical patterns. Commander, Lisa said excitedly, Elder Zexthiala wants to share something with us. The Velothi have been watching our fight, and they think they can help us in a way we didn't expect. What kind of help? Jake asked, while the ship shook from another near miss. They're saying that Velothi crystal technology can enhance human weapons and shields. They want to share their knowledge with us, but they need a direct mental link to do it quickly. Jake thought for a moment. The battle was going well, but they were still outnumbered. They needed every advantage they could get. Do it, he decided, but be careful. Lisa put her hands on the harmonic communication device that connected her to the Velothi. As soon as the link was established, her mind filled with alien knowledge and memories. She saw the Velothi homeworld as it really was. Cities of living crystal that grew like trees, reaching toward the sky in spirals of rainbow light. She felt their peaceful emotions, their horror at violence, and their desperate hope that the humans could save them. But she also felt something else. The Velothi were sharing their most advanced scientific knowledge with her, showing her how their crystal technology worked. Information flowed into her mind like a river of light. "Ryan," she called out suddenly. "Get down to Engineering Lab 3 right now. I'm sending you something incredible." Chief Engineer Phillips didn't ask questions. He ran from the bridge toward the engineering section while Lisa transferred the Velothi technical data to the ship's computers. Meanwhile, the space battle continued. The human fighters had destroyed 2 Krathan ships and badly damaged 3 others. But more enemy vessels were approaching from deeper in the system. "Steve," Jake called out to the fighter leader, "we've got company coming. 12 more ships on long-range sensors." Lieutenant Commander Rogers' voice remained calm. "Understood, sir. We'll keep these busy while you figure out our next move." In Engineering Lab 3, Ryan Phillips stared at the technical information that Lisa had sent him. The Velothi crystal technology was unlike anything he had ever seen. Instead of using metal and electronics, they grew their devices like plants, creating living machines that could adapt and change. "This is incredible," he muttered to himself. "If I can combine this with our weapon systems," he began working frantically, using the ship's fabrication units to create hybrid technology that mixed human engineering with Velothi crystal science. Within 30 minutes, he had created something that had never existed before. Commander Ryan's voice came through the communication system. "I need to shut down main power for 60 seconds to install new weapon modifications." "Do it," Jake ordered. The horizon went dark for a moment as Ryan connected the hybrid technology to the ship's systems. When the lights came back on, everything looked the same, but Jake could feel that something was different. "Sir," Ryan reported, "our weapons are now enhanced with Velothi focusing crystals. We should be seeing a significant increase in power and accuracy." Jake didn't have to wait long to test the new weapons. Krathan's ship moved into firing position and launched a full missile attack at the horizon. "Return fire," Jake commanded. Horizon's enhanced weapons fired blue energy beams that were brighter and more focused than before. When they hit the Krathan ship, the results were devastating. The alien vessel's shields collapsed immediately, and its hull began to crack and break apart. "Holy ... double quotes, Kelly whispered. "Sir, our weapons just cut through their defenses like they were made of paper." More Velothi voices joined the communication channel, their musical tones filled with excitement and hope. Lisa translated quickly. "They're saying they never imagined their peaceful technology could be used for war, but they're glad it can help protect innocent lives." Jake watched as their enhanced weapons destroyed another Krathan ship with a single volley. The remaining enemy vessels began to retreat, clearly shocked by the sudden change in the battle. "Lisa," Jake said, "tell Elder Zexiala that this is what happens when peaceful people and warriors work together. We both have something the other needs." As the Krathan ships fled toward the edge of the system, Jake knew this was only the beginning. But now humanity and the Velothi had shown that they could fight together. The children of a death world had found allies among the stars, and that combination was more powerful than either species could be alone. 3 hours after the first battle, Commander Jake Morrison stood in the Horizon's communications center, listening to reports coming in from across the Krathan Empire. The alien communications were full of panic and confusion. "Sir, communications." Officer Carlos Martinez said, "The Krathan are talking about us on all their channels. They're calling us the impossible fighters and Death Planet demons. They've never faced anything like human combat tactics before." Dr. Lisa Carter looked up from her translation work. "Commander, I'm also picking up Krathan military reports. They're telling their high command that human ships fight with unnatural coordination and that our pilots perform maneuvers that should kill them." Jake smiled grimly. What the Krathan didn't understand was that humans had been fighting together for thousands of years. Every battle technique, every tactical formation, every strategy had been tested in the fires of Earth's endless conflicts. Lieutenant Kelly Adams interrupted from her station. "Sir, I'm detecting new ships entering the system. 3 large vessels, coming from the direction of Earth." Jake's heart jumped with excitement. "Put them on screen." The viewing window showed 3 magnificent human warships approaching at high speed. The lead ship was the battlecruiser U.S. Defiance, commanded by Captain Greg Thompson. Behind it came the heavy cruiser U.S. Retribution under Captain Nancy Clark, and the assault carrier U.S. Guardian, led by Captain Miranda Hayes. "Incoming transmission from the Defiance," Carlos reported. "Put it through, Jake," ordered Captain Thompson's familiar voice filled the bridge. "Jake, you magnificent fool. What have you gotten yourself into this time?" Jake laughed with relief. "Greg, I've never been happier to hear your voice. We've got a situation here that's bigger than just one ship can handle, so we heard. Earth Command received your reports about the alien distress call. They decided that if you were crazy enough to start a war with an alien empire, you probably needed backup." Captain Clark's voice joined the conversation from the Retribution. "Jake, Nancy here. We brought some friends along. Miranda's got 200 Marines on the Guardian, and I've got enough firepower to level a small moon." Captain Hayes spoke next. "And I brought something special. The first batch of human Velothi hybrid technology your engineer Phillips sent. His weapon designs back to Earth, and our scientists have been working around the clock to improve them." Jake felt a surge of pride. This was what humanity did best. When one of their own was in trouble, they came running to help. "Lisa," Jake called out, "contact Elder Zexthiala. Tell them that more humans have arrived to help defend their world." Doctor. Carter worked quickly to send the message in the musical Velothi language. The response came back immediately, filled with harmonics that even Jake could recognize as joy and gratitude. "They're saying that they never believed 3 days ago that anyone would come to help them," Lisa translated. "Now they have 4 human ships willing to fight for their survival. They want to know how to thank us. Tell them they can thank us." "By surviving," Jake replied. "And by helping us finish off these Krathan bullies." The 4 human ships formed up in a defensive formation around Velothi Prime. Chief Engineer Ryan Phillips worked with teams from all the ships to install the hybrid weapon systems that combined human, military technology with Velothi crystal. "Science," Captain Thompson's voice came through the communication system. "Jake, I'm reading massive Krathan fleet movements throughout this sector. They're pulling ships from 3 different star systems to deal with us." "How many ships are we talking about?" Jake asked. "Long-range sensors show at least 40 vessels. Heading this way, they should arrive within 6 hours." Jake felt his stomach tighten, but his voice remained calm. "Then we have 6 hours to get ready for them." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Human engineers worked alongside Velothi crystal shapers to create new defensive systems. The crystal beings used their harmonic technology to grow shield generators that could protect entire sections of their planet. Marine. Colonel Beth Williams came aboard the Horizon to coordinate ground defenses with Velothi leaders. She was a tough woman who had fought in conflicts across Earth's solar system. Even she was amazed by what she saw when she met the Velothi face-to-face. "Commander," she reported to Jake, "these crystal people are incredible. They can literally grow buildings and machines just by singing to their crystal formations." "But sir, they've never fought anyone before. They don't even have a concept of military strategy." "Then we'll have to teach them fast," Jake replied. "What do you think, Colonel? Can we turn peaceful crystal beings into defenders of their own world?" Colonel Williams smiled. "Sir, if there's one thing humans are good at, it's adapting to impossible situations. We'll figure it out." Throughout the Velothi cities, human Marines worked with crystal beings to set up defensive positions. Velothi learned quickly that sometimes violence was necessary to protect innocent lives. Their crystal technology, combined with human tactical knowledge, created defenses unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Technician Pete Walker worked with a Velothi engineer named Chimyala to create new types of weapons. The crystal being could grow weapon components by singing specific harmonic patterns, while Pete provided the military engineering knowledge to make them effective. "This is amazing," Pete said as he watched Chimyala grow a crystal cannon by humming a complex melody. "You can create anything just by changing your song." Chimyala's response came through the translation device as musical tones. "We grow what our world needs. But we never needed weapons before humans showed us that protection requires strength." Meanwhile, human fighter pilots worked with Velothi crystal shapers to enhance their ships. The living crystals could be grown directly onto the fighter craft, creating hybrid vessels that were both more powerful and more maneuverable than purely human designs. Lieutenant Commander Steve Rogers tested one of the enhanced fighters and was amazed by the results. "It's like the ship is alive," he reported to Jake. "The crystal components respond to my thoughts and emotions. When I want to turn left, the ship starts turning before I even touch the controls." Pilot Officer Amy Johnson had similar experiences. "Sir, these hybrid fighters are incredible. The Velothi crystals seem to learn from our flying patterns and help us perform even better. It's like having a co-pilot who knows what you're thinking." As the 6-hour deadline approached, Jake stood on the bridge looking at tactical displays that showed the approaching Krathen fleet. 40 enemy ships against 4 human vessels, and whatever defenses they had managed to build around Velothi Prime. Sir Kelly reported the Krathen fleet is dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. On the main screen, Jake could see the enemy ships appearing in flashes of light. They were massive and threatening, designed to intimidate enemies into surrender. But Jake and his crews had no intention of surrendering. Lisa Jake called out, "What are the Velothi saying?" Dr. Carter listened to the harmonic communications coming from the planet. "They're singing something new, sir. It's not their usual peaceful melodies. This sounds like ... like a war song. They're singing about protection, about standing together, about refusing to let their people die." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The Velothi had learned something from humans that their species had never known before: the willingness to fight for what they believed in. "Captain," came through the communication system. "All ships, this is Greg. The Krathen are broadcasting surrender demands. They're saying they'll give us one chance to leave before they destroy everything." Jake pressed his communication button. "This is Jake Morrison to all human ships and Velothi defenders. Krathen want us to abandon our new friends and run away. I have a different suggestion. Let's show these bullies what happens when they threaten innocent people while humans are around." The response came immediately from all 4 human ships and from the Velothi planet below. Voices in both human languages and crystal harmonics. Joined together in a single message: they would fight. The Krathen fleet began moving toward Velothi Prime, confident in their overwhelming numbers. What they didn't know was that they were about to face something the galaxy had never seen before: the combined fury of Earth's warriors and the protective determination of beings who had finally learned that sometimes peace must be defended. With strength, as the enemy ships approached, Jake looked around his bridge at the crew who had followed him across the galaxy to help strangers. These people represented the best of humanity, brave enough to risk everything for others, smart enough to adapt to any situation, and stubborn enough to never give up. "All stations prepare for battle," Jake commanded. "Today we show the galaxy what Earth's children can do when we fight alongside friends." So Krathen had expected to find a few primitive ships and defenseless crystal beings. Instead, they were about to discover that Deathworlders, who fought for others, were the most dangerous force in the universe. The final battle for Velothi Prime lasted 18 hours and changed the galaxy forever. When it was over, 37 Krathen ships lay destroyed in space, their wreckage drifting among the stars like broken monuments to their defeat. The 3 surviving enemy vessels fled toward the edge of the system, broadcasting warnings about the Death Planet warriors to every Krathen outpost in the galaxy. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES horizon, looking down at the crystal cities of Velothi Prime. The beautiful structures sparkled in the light of their sun, no longer under attack. For the first time in days, the planet was peaceful again. Sir Communications Officer Carlos Martinez reported, "We're receiving messages from across the galaxy. Word about the battle is spreading fast." Dr. Lisa Carter looked up from her translation, work with excitement in her eyes. "Commander, the Velothi are receiving communications from dozens of species. Many of them are asking about humans and wanting to know if the stories are true. Jake smiled. What stories are those? That there's a species from a death planet that will travel across the galaxy to help strangers. That humans fight not for conquest or resources, but to protect innocent people they've never met before. 3 months later, Jake found himself standing in a place he never could have imagined. Now, the first human Velothi research station hung in space between Earth and Velothi Prime, a beautiful structure that combined human engineering with living Velothi crystal technology. The station was more than just a building. It was a symbol of what two very different species could accomplish when they worked together. Human scientists and Velothi crystal shapers shared laboratories where they created technologies that neither species could have developed alone. Dr. Carter, now Earth's first xenological ambassador, walked beside Elder Resonance 6 Theala through the station's central garden. The space was filled with Earth plants growing alongside Velothi crystals, creating a rainbow of colors that moved and shifted as the crystals responded to the plant's life energy. Elder Zex Theala, Lisa said, speaking. Now in the musical Velothi language she had learned, our people have accomplished so much together. Your harmonic healing technology has already saved thousands of human lives.
Ow.
And our defensive systems are protecting Velothi worlds throughout this sector. The Elder's response came as beautiful harmonic tones that painted patterns of light in the air around them. Ambassador Carter, your species taught us that sometimes we must be strong to protect what we love. But you also showed us that strength guided by compassion is the most powerful force in the universe. In another part of the station, Chief Engineer Ryan Phillips worked alongside Velothi engineer Chimala on their latest project, a new type of starship that could grow and adapt, like a living creature while maintaining all the tactical advantages of human military design. The crystal matrix is responding perfectly to the human control systems, Ryan said as he watched living crystal components integrate themselves with metal and electronics. This ship will be able to repair itself and adapt to any situation. Chimala's musical response was translated by the station's computers. Human engineering teaches the crystals to be strong and flexible. Velothi growth patterns teach human technology to live and change. Together, we create something neither of us could make alone. Back on Earth, the news of humanity's first alien allies had changed everything. People looked up at the stars with new hope, knowing that humans were no longer alone in the galaxy. Children in schools learned about the Velothi and their crystal cities, while scientists worked on new technologies that combined the best of both species. But the most important changes were happening in the depths of space, where other alien species were quietly sending diplomatic messages to both Earth and Velothi Prime. The story of humans who fought to protect strangers had spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Admiral Jake Morrison, recently promoted after the Velothi rescue, sat in his office aboard the new flagship U.S. Unity, reading reports from across human space. His fleet now included both human ships and vessels that were part crystal, part metal hybrids created through cooperation with the Velothi. Sir, his aide Lieutenant Commander Tom Bradley reported, we've received another request for protection. This time, it's from a species called the Thalani. They're being threatened by raiders from the Outer Rim. Jake looked at the request, studying the star charts and tactical information. What do we know about the Thalani? They're aquatic beings, sir. Live in underwater cities on ocean worlds. Very peaceful, like the Velothi were. They've heard about what we did for our crystal friends, and they're hoping we might help them too. Jake thought about how much had changed since that first distress call from the Velothi. Humanity had gone from being alone in space to being the protectors that peaceful species called when they were in danger. Prepare the fleet, Tom. Looks like we're going on another rescue mission. Meanwhile, in the outer regions of the galaxy, Krathan's Supreme War Leader Gaktor sat in his command ship, staring at reports from his intelligence network. The humans had not only defeated his forces at Velothi Prime, but they were now actively protecting other species throughout the sector, sir. One of his officers reported nervously. Our raids on 17 different systems have been stopped by human intervention. These Death Planet warriors seem to appear wherever we try to expand our territory. Gaktor's mechanical voice was filled with frustration. How can one species be in so many places at once? Sir, our intelligence suggests that humans are not acting alone. They're forming alliances with the species they protect. The Velothi provide them with advanced technology, while other species offer different forms of support. They're creating a network of mutual protection that's growing larger every month. The Krathan leader slammed his armored fist on his command table. His empire had conquered dozens of worlds by targeting peaceful species that couldn't defend themselves. But now there were warriors from a death planet who seemed determined to protect every innocent species in the galaxy. 6 months after the Battle of Velothi Prime, Captain Miranda Hayes stood on the bridge of the EU's Guardian, watching. As her ship approached another crisis, the peaceful, ethereal collective was under attack by pirates. And once again, humans had answered the call for help. But this time, they weren't alone. Beside the Guardian flew to Velothi crystal ships, their beautiful forms sparkling in space like living jewels. The crystal vessels were armed with hybrid weapons that combined human firepower with Velothi focusing technology. Captain, her communications officer reported, the Ethereals are broadcasting their gratitude. They say they never expected anyone to come help them, especially not warriors from a death planet. Miranda smiled. Tell them that's what we do. Earth may have made us tough, but it also taught us to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. As the human and Velothi ships moved into battle formation, Miranda thought about how much the galaxy had changed. Before the Velothi rescue, most species saw humans as just another violent race from a dangerous world. Now, they were beginning to understand that Earth's violence had created something unique. Warriors, who fought not for conquest, but for protection. The final battle was brief but decisive. The pirates, expecting to face defenseless victims, instead encountered the combined fury of human tactics and Velothi technology. Within 2 hours, the threat was eliminated, and the ethereal collective was safe. Later, as the human and Velothi ships orbited the ethereal homeworld, Ambassador Carter received a message that made her smile. It was from a species called the Harmony, living on the far side of the galaxy. They had heard about the humans who protected peaceful worlds, and they wanted to join the growing alliance. Admiral Morrison, Lisa reported over the long-range communication system, I think we're going to need more ships. Seems like every peaceful species in the galaxy wants to be our friend. Jake's voice came back with laughter in it. Then we'd better start building more ships. The galaxy is a big place, and there are a lot of people out there who need someone to watch their backs. As news of each successful rescue mission spread, more and more species reached out to humanity. Not to conquer or be conquered, but to join something that had never existed before. A galactic alliance based not on power or profit, but on the simple idea that peaceful people deserve to live in peace. The children of Earth had found their purpose among the stars. They were no longer just explorers or warriors. They had become the guardians of the galaxy, protectors of all those who chose peace over violence. And with their crystal allies beside them, they were just getting started.